Hello, everybody, and welcome to Omen of Ilmater. Ilmator? Ilmator?
I think it is meant to be
Ilmator.
Ilmater, but I've
Ilmater,
been
yeah,
saying
me too.
Ilmator
It's
just because
Ilmater, though.
yeah, I think you guys are right.
Sounds good.
I'm a
I
kobold anyway in this game, so I'm not even trying.
oh, fair. And I'm a tortured soul, edgelord. So, how's everybody's week? How's everybody doing?
Pretty
I'm
good. My week
fine.
just
It's
started.
nearly Christmas.
It's nearly Christmas.
Starting my week off sick.
Oh,
But it's like a
Rip.
tummy ache. It's not like a cold flu, so it's not as
oh,
bad.
I got the it was never a cough, and it was never really a runny nose. It was like a stuffy nose became headache thing. And that's why I was like, oh, that was fun today.
you got the worst part of the
That's not
cold.
fun, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you roll the dice whenever you get a cold, and you get 2 of 6 things. You
Listen,
got the worst bit.
The stomach
Listen.
flu for me was just like, if I sleep through it, then I can never throw up, right?
You get the weirdest
yeah.
dreams and you have the
That's
flu.
my theory.
Nice.
Alright, I
There
am
you
down
go.
for that.
So I'm actually super excited because tomorrow morning, because everybody cares about this. Everybody knows I'm a dad. Yay! Tomorrow morning, we have to bring my daughter to her little school thing that she does, or like daycare place. She never goes on Tuesdays normally, but they're gonna be putting on like a little show, and so it's gonna be a whole bunch of like little 2-year-olds like dancing and stuff. And I'm like so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna get the camera. 2-year-olds dancing.
Yeah,
It's
you
gonna be
have to
best.
videotape that because then she gets to look back on it later. My parents never really. I don't like have a lot of photos or videos of when I was a kid, so I would
There's
love
a
to look
lot.
back on that.
There's a lot of my brother and sister who are older than me, and then there's nothing of me because they got bored of
Aw.
doing it.
Honestly, it was after the third lens cracks. They're like, all right, trash
Yeah.
goblin in there with Oscar, and just kind of pushed it out the back door.
Okay. Rude.
Eric.
I know what I am.
Rude.
Eric, take over.
Anyways, so welcome to Omen of Ilmater. Just to cover what happened last week, or I should say a few weeks ago, the party made their way to the magical kingdom of Demont, where they were seeking out additional support for an attempted assault on Thronebend, the dwarven homestead that is still under the rule of the Horde from the east. So the party was able to make it to the place. They were successfully teleported inside the city limits, and they met with the regent of the area, which was actually not the true king. He was a king consort. He was essentially the husband of the true queen who had been missing for some time. And the party was essentially able to, with not a whole lot of work, just because he seemed to be well within the idea there, they were able to convince him to step aside and let his son take over as ruler to kind of consolidate the power of the kingdom. They also kind of learned that his the current king has demonic bloodline, and that was kind of a bit of moral dilemma for our characters here. But after putting him through a test of sorts, Ingram was able to feel a little bit better about his decision. He essentially was like, "Hey, we have this evil kind of rogue that has been following us around and helping us out. You can murder him because he's wronged your people." And he chose not to murder people. So that was really good. That was a pretty good moment there. But then our group traveled back to the city. When they on their way back, they were assaulted by a demon summoner, one of the largest power sources for this army. They actually fought a Hezaru. For anyone who is a longtime Dungeons and Dragons fan, that is a pretty fun demon to fight. After defeating that, it was actually able to temporarily, he got better, kill Ingram, and then they arrived back at the capital. We ended last session with the unveiling, or just the ribbon cutting ceremony, reopening the Temple of Ilmater, in the city of Celavu proper. Now, we start this session actually about 4 weeks later. It's been a long journey to get to here. You guys have been preparing to strike against Thronebend with force, but to do so is not easy. first things first, you had to get supplies from Demont over here, because trying to traverse the entire area between that with the entire army would probably prove incredibly problematic. They would find heavy resistance from the Horde from the east. However, given that they are a city of magic, they were able to, working with some people on your side, able to set up permanent circles of teleportation that they've been slowly transporting supplies, troops, and the like over to Selavu proper. And it's taken a long time to get all of the supplies you need here.
Would
but
you
they
say 4
finally...
weeks of time?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's about right. And from there, the armies stand ready, prepared. You've officially taken the entirety of Selavu, the city-state, over, including all of the resources it has to offer. Though the farms have been mostly destroyed due to the burning campaign that took place while you guys went to Demont. But luckily, through a variety of cleric spells and various other methods, you have transported enough supplies over here that you're able to field an army. You have been mostly led in this endeavor by Denon Demont, the leader of the commander of the Demont forces, who has been leading this due to the fact that he has some history with this place. Back many years ago, he actually invaded this territory back when it was owned by its original occupants. But today he's using his experience to hopefully retake the area there. So we actually are going to start with you guys standing at the border of Selavu, preparing the armies to march into the desert that is Thrombin. Danon is you guys have been spending most of your time in the war camp with Danon. He's been very purposely hiding you guys in the back, and he doesn't really talk to you guys a lot in the beginning, but finally he's called you to the war tent so he can speak to you proper to let you know what's going to happen in the battle ahead. As you guys enter the war tent, it's much as you imagine. It's not exactly a nice place. It's something that has to be taken down and put back up every single time you break down and put together camp. So it's nice enough that you can put a table that seems to be small and it seems to be rather large for a table that has to be transported, and a number of different maps and charts there. There's a couple of different soldiers standing around guarding this area. You see a couple of the generals standing around the table listening as Danon speaks to them, and you see messengers running in and out, just putting messages down at the table and largely being ignored other than that. As you guys walk in, Danon finishes up what he's saying to the generals, and he looks at them, gives them a salute, and they walk out. And he looks up at you guys and he says, "Well, I have to thank you for coming. I would have half expected at this point that you guys would have left. I understand you have gone far in this endeavor, but I have been not so forthcoming about my reasons for leaving you in the dark. But I applaud your dedication, and I would like to reward it with some information. Going forward, I have no intentions on fielding you in the battle. I am bringing you simply because I was hoping that your faces will bring some semblance of morale to the men here. As you can imagine, facing the Horde from the east is not going to be easy, and they're going to need everything that they can muster if we're going to attack them. But I fear fielding you will bring far more wrath out of the Horde from the east. If you guys are not aware, there are many thousands of gold piece rewards for each of your heads, and the generals of their army would just simply love to kill you for the sole purpose of being able to report that they were the ones to kill you, to get some praise from their god emperor."
Well, that escalated quickly.
We are famous.
Sure. What did you expect? You've made a name for
I
yourself.
wasn't saying that in character.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord's
Oh.
definitely saying it in character.
I just one of those proud.
However,
Proud.
I would be remiss if I didn't at least use your talents for some purpose. So, I've had 3 of my best soldiers preparing to take on illusory masks of yours that I intend to move around the battlefield when I need to shift focus. My hope is that they will be able to use your guys well enough to pull focus, but then disappear, so to speak, keeping our enemy on their toes. And during the last part of the battle, my intention is to use you to lead our troops in the final assault. That being said, I obviously cannot do this without your consent. If you simply charge into the battle, I cannot stop you, but I will tell you that it will only serve to detriment of our troops.
So, you give us an option, but then tell us we don't have an option because people will die if we don't do what you ask. And then this is you being forthcoming.
Also,
Still-
the only option you let us have is to be soldiers. We are not soldiers. Also, you have people stealing our faces. I think good plan, but it's still not exactly the most pious technique you could have put out of your bag of tricks. Also, do you have anyone as short as me? I doubt it. I find that hard to believe. I am very short.
He actually will.
Sorry, it was literally the last 2 words. Very short. Got me.
He would even actually openly laugh at that. He says, "Well, most of my my illusionists are gnomes, and I have a particularly small halfling I intended to play your part, Lore. He's even been getting down the accent."
I don't know what you're talking about.
And how can we trust that you won't use our guys in a matter that we do not approve of?
I guess in this matter you must trust me. I know that is not an easy task, but you have to understand that your goals are my goals. I seek to drive the horde from the east away, and you seek to, I believe, do the same thing.
I didn't distrust you into this conversation.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
when do you believe this plan to take place? Do we have time to think upon it?
We will be a few weeks before we arrive at the site of the final battle. I have had my scouts move ahead, and I know that they already plan on attempting to kite our forces back. They have made small encampments throughout the way in. There's a desert that lays between us and our goal, with limited sources of water, and I know that they already intend on destroying every bit of resource that we can use on our march in. They believe that this will deter us and drive our soldiers back, but I've prepared for this already. So we'll have a few weeks before we reach the final stand. I would hope that you would have your decision before then, because if I need a new plan, I would rather have time to think of one, but
Says
I'm
the
at your
DM
behest.
going, PCs. Just go along with it.
I'm at your behest.
What you do with my face, I'm not concerned about. I can always cleanse you of your sins if need be. You do what you need to do to end the suffering of the others. But if you cause suffering, just know that my blade ever needs to be dulled.
How ironic.
Gadir holds up her prayer wheel and gives it a good old spin, and I would like to cast.
Hit him at the augury.
Yep. That augury.
Hit 'em
And
with the augury.
And I imagine your augury is in regards to this plan.
Yes.
You detect the result of wheel from this.
Okay.
According to your augury spell, this will work out for the benefit. And so you with that, he kind of informally dismisses you guys. He just kind of looks at you guys, obviously finished, and expects you guys to kind of leave. So I imagine that you guys aren't going to stick around. And so, much as he anticipated, the next couple of weeks is a grueling, a grueling sprint through the desert sands. And while you guys are able to keep relatively well fed and sated, almost the instant you guys hit the sand, he puts all of his troops on half rations and double water, and he begins. He just cuts down all required military exercises. He just focuses all their energy on getting through the desert. And as expected, you see very light skirmishes along the way. Nothing, no major engagements through the entire first 2 weeks of your trek in. The end of the second week, there is during the night there is a raid on the camp. However, even this is easily repelled. This one seemed to have been an attempt to go after your supplies. As you guys are heading through, you notice that he brought a number of what you believed to be siege engines at first, very complex, like mechanical-looking siege engines, but learned later are actually giant repositories of water that he stored up for easy that are designed to crawl through a desert versus going over a road with like a sort of flat tread versus like large wheels which would get stuck in the sand.
How revolutionary.
And so during this, you get a couple more similar situations where they will attack the camp, attempt to destroy these machines, and they even are able to temporarily disable one during one of their attacks. But none of these attacks are obvious that they were going to do a lot of damage other than attack their supplies. Whatever battle is waiting for you at the end of your road. And at the end of the third week, you guys sit at in the dark shadow of a large mountain, a mountain that Gadara has seen before in her youth. This is the home of the dwarves. This is Thronebin Mountain. Deep inside of it is the citadel of the dwarven people. And more importantly, that is where the bulk of the forces will be lying. You see in your encampment, they have already marshaled a great number of their forces to the field below, and they stand in wait for the battle. That night is quiet, and a lot of the soldiers are restless. But for the most part, there is nothing more than a couple of light skirmishes between scouts. The battle is set for the next morning. When you wake up, it is the sun is baking down, making it nearly unbearable for most people to even put on their armor. There are a number of soldiers you see actually opt to remain out of their armor rather than trying to fight under the stifling conditions of their heated metal. And the soldiers reluctantly line up in their formations. You see the troops on the other side don't seem as undisciplined. Every single man is lined up in their military gear. All of their armor has been, as far as you can tell, specially designed for this type of weather. It's lighter armor than the ones you've seen before, the heavy plate mails that they usually wear. They have lighter armor with like cloth exteriors that allow for the light amount of wind to blow through and keep the soldiers cool as best they can. As you see these guys setting up the field, he has you standing like way in the back, and he specifically told you guys to stay in the tent. That he's directed you guys. He says, stay here until I come and stay here, and I will come and tell you when you're needed. And
How long will it be until we are needed?
If all goes well, a few hours at most.
I don't understand why we can't have one of his gnomes come here. He said he has many illusionists, most of them gnomes. Why can't they just take us from sight so that we could be more readily available when combat happens? I do best on the field, not in comfort.
That is my worry. If you are to listen, you're all very good people, and that's your biggest flaw. The fact is that if I lead you to the field of battle, you're going to see men slaughtered by the dozens, and you're going to want to help because you're good people. But you cannot. I repeat, you cannot help. If you do this, you will lose the day for us.
I don't know why you're reiterating. I understood your words. I just think your plan is foolish.
It's just, I would like to know the timing. As you know, timing is important when it comes to aiding friends.
There's truth in what you say. By my estimations, it will take about 2 hours for the initial assault. I intend to do a fair bit. I intend to route their forward army for them. At the beginning, it'll take them about an hour to repair their lines and set up a countercharge. About 2 hours from then for us to repel them again, and then hopefully an hour or two for us to break their lines. And at that point, you should be able to go in. That's assuming nothing goes wrong.
We will be ready whether something goes wrong or something goes right. You can have faith in us.
Then I will.
After like the hour and a half mark, Gadira would like to rest her hands on Lord Ingram and say,
Go
may
on.
to bolster your toughness and resolve, and provide them with aid at level 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Is it a roll for health, or am I thinking 3-5?
It's a
Yeah, it's
standard 5.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And so you guys wait for about 6 agonizing, slow hours as you see this grinding combat. And for these 6 hours, it projects almost exactly the way that he suggested. First, they route the army at the bottom, even though there's grueling amounts of losses. They pull back and charge again, and then once again through just sheer force, as you guys outnumber them, probably at least for the armies you can see outside, 5-1. And they eventually do once again break their forces and send them back up the hill, and then they charge into the and then they charge back into the fray. At this point, the soldiers you can see are exhausted. The soldiers on your side are exhausted. You can't even imagine what the other side's feeling. At this point, you guys are getting kind of antsy. Things are looking like they're going your way, but they also look like they could easily swing the other way.
Gadira is going to cast some more spells.
Okay.
She puts her hand on Ingram and says, no matter what the outcome is, may you always rise at the top. And she provides you with Death Ward.
That's pretty awesome.
That's why I'm saying don't die.
Well, at least one more
It'll
time.
stop a
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, a die. Yeah.
A die.
And by now she would have recast the other spell into her sword, so we're good. We gotta get a few of these in.
And then, as you guys head to the 7th hour, when things look like they're at their worst, you see a human just running over to you, wearing long caster's robes, holding a bag over his shoulder. He runs towards you guys, and at first you guys, get yourselves ready for combat. But then you see he wears the unmistakable mark of Demont, and he charges into the tent, dropping the bag down, and he says, "All right, we gotta go."
Finally.
Just, all right. Walk out.
Yeah.
And
No question.
as he
We've been
steps
waiting.
out, as he steps out, you see him open up his book, and he scrolls through, and he says, "I was told to tell you something. I just hope it isn't important. You ready to go?
It's always important.
Yes, it's always important.
I just yes. Dinan. He said 20 years ago, his sister apparently captured the Hydra and gifted it as a king to the King of Thronebin. We don't know where that Hydra is. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to be teleporting you inside the hold. We have soldiers inside, and we've sort of broken the defenses, and we've been able to make a small hole to the throne room. It's more of a gesture than anything, but the commander wants you guys to be the first to go into the throne room.
I look to you guys. He wants us to be the first to barge through a throne room. That's like a statement, you know. So I like look to you guys with a bit of concern.
Gadira sees the concern. I mean, that's something that she's well versed in, is emotions, I suppose. And she looks to Ingram and says, "Would you like me to ask the gods, or shall we go?"
I trust your judgment with or without directly asking them. If you go, I'll follow.
Is there a reason that he has us going first?
He thinks it would probably look bad for the only other viable ruler of Demont to be breaking into the throne room of a enemy kingdom. Thinks that it would probably look like he's trying to conquer, which he doesn't want to do, because we kind of need the people on our side after this is said and done. You guys, you're neutral, I guess. At least more neutral than he is. Neutral enough that perhaps we can just argue that you are liberators versus conquerors.
So you would like us to go into this throne room?
Yes, and so the king didn't exactly abdicate his throne when this man came along. He kind of capitulated and surrendered his throne, and he still sits on it. Kind of more of a local
Puppet.
ruler than anything. Exactly. And we kind of need you to dethrone him.
Oh, Ilmater.
As much as I do not, my commander does not like this. The fact is, if we do not do this, he will continue to resist, and may eventually try to allow these guys back in. I'm not telling you to kill anybody, and frankly, I'm just telling you what my commander told me to do. He just can't be sitting on the throne. He's only going to prove problematic.
Well, if words do not appease this king into stepping down, we may have to use force, and is that not something he wants?
Well, if you can talk him out of the throne, then that's way better. Just because if we can have a peaceful resolution to this situation, then I'd be all for that. The king just surrendering the throne to, I guess, you guys for now. I don't really know what the situation is down here. We're not looking to take any of this land. I understand that you have that priest guy that's leading the other city-state for now, but I don't really know what your plan is here. But yeah, that's what we're hoping for. So, but
Gadira looks to Ingram and says, "Do you think that you can do that? Convince him?"
I look to the other person, and when she asks, and I say, I am not the most well versed in history. It's not my focus. So let me ask you this: how many times in history has someone been convinced by words alone to step out of a position of power, especially one as great as a throne, even in a time of war?
Yeah, I take your point.
Next time, your boss maybe hires mercenaries or assassins instead of priests.
I prefer he hire us, because the rest of them would screw it up.
That was my commander's thought as well.
Eh.
He's placing a lot of trust in you. I've never really seen him trust adventurers. He's not a fan of adventurers.
We're
But,
not adventurers. We are holy men and women and
Sure.
lizards
Whatever,
that are here to spread the word
Lizards.
of Ilmater.
whatever you say. You guys ready?
Let's go.
All right. And he begins his spell.